What's up guys, Ryan here, KidMoto22 on Instagram and YouTube. And today I want to talk to you guys about the riding boots I've used for probably the last 4 seasons. I've put over 20,000, I shouldn't even say that. I've put about 35 to 40,000 miles on these boots. I have 2 separate pairs of boots that I've put those miles on. One pair specifically I have over 20,000 miles on, and the second pair I have about 15,000 miles on. So I figure that I can make a pretty fair comparison between the 2 versions, but also the boots that come from this specific company. So what I'm going to be showing you guys today are the Indy Ridge Crow boots. I've got 2 different pairs of boots here that I want to show you, and version 4 and version 2 specifically. And the reason why is that I want to make a comparison, like a lot of things, they make upgrades, they make changes, they do different things with them. And I want to compare the 2 different boots and how they've lasted for me over the course of the miles that I've been riding. So, let's get to that review right now. For the sake of this video, I wanted to show you guys the boot from the same foot. So in this case, I used the left boot. And the reason why I did that is that you'll be able to see on both boots, when I kind of show you them a little bit closer, you'll be able to see on the toe box of both boots the marks from the shifter on my bike. So that was the kind of the whole reason why I wanted to show you guys both the left boot. So what I have here is I'm going to bring this one back and I'm going to show you, this is the version 2. So this is the first boot that I got. Okay. Again, this is the Crow from Indy Ridge. Kind of show you the bottom. Okay. So you can kind of see the wear on the bottom of the boot. All right. So this is the Crow version 2. Okay. The Crow version 2. This is the Crow version 4. Again, the wear on the top of the toe box. So you can kind of see and make your own kind of judgment. There's obviously still bugs and everything. Again, I'll show you the bottom so you can kind of see the bottom of the boot and see the tread pattern. Okay. So again, the Crow version 2 and the Crow version 4. Okay, I'm not really sure the time frame that they had for these boots in terms of when they released them and when they didn't. To me, I guess that doesn't really matter. I had the version 2 I've had for about 4 seasons. This one I've had for about 1.5 seasons. In terms of the mileage, this one I have about 20,000 miles on. This one I have about maybe 12,000 miles on. So you can see that the boots really wear pretty well as far as their longevity goes. I wouldn't say that I wore these exclusively for riding my motorcycle if I went to an event, or for instance, if I went camping or anything like that. I did wear these boots. I would say that version 2 has been on more camping trips, and the version 4 has probably been to more actual events since I did go to Sturgis with that boot. So the first thing I'd like to talk about with these is the sizing. I typically wear anywhere from a 10.5 to an 11. When I first got the version 2 boot, I got an 11 and it was way too big. So I went down to the 10.5 and that's what I stuck with the version 4. And I felt very comfortable in those sizes. So kind of use your judgment in terms of how you would decide which boot to pick in terms of the sizing. Indy Ridge does have some sizing guides on there, and I found that to be fairly accurate in terms of how it fit my particular foot. I've been asked before about wide sizes. I guess I have a narrow foot, or, I guess not very wide. So for me, I don't really take into consideration wide boots or if they come in wide sizes. So I don't really, you'd have to check the website for that. So the first thing, I just want to look at the two boots in terms of the styling differences. You'll see that the version 2 kind of came with this already worn look to it. I would have to say, of the two boots, that was my preference. I liked the fact that it kind of looked worn, you know, from jump from when I ordered it. The version 4 was a little bit less kind of worn looking, more of a traditional just plain black boot. So you can kind of even see here, you can kind of see some wear marks on the side of it right here in the version 4. So in terms of styling, I would say that the version 2 was my preference as far as just styling right out of the box. There is a couple of functional things about these that I want to mention. First of all, the toe box in the very top is stiff. It's going to be stiff over the covering of your toes. It does not have metal in there, but it's a very stiff toe box, which for long days or lots of shifting, I found that to be really great because it was really having a stiff toe box. You don't feel that fatigue on your feet if you're shifting a lot, if you're in traffic or anything like that. The flexibility of the boot is pretty good. I wouldn't say that it's great. I would say that it's pretty good. I found the version 2 to be a much stiffer boot when I purchased it than the version 4. The version 4 felt a little bit less stiff. It broke in a little bit easier and felt a little bit more comfortable right from jump on from when I started wearing it than the version 2 did. So I would say the version 4 is what I would call a bit more refined. In terms of whether or not you like the boots from an armor standpoint, they do have ankle protection, so you'll see this little kind of notch right or knob right here that is ankle protection, and they're stiff again in the heel. That is both in the version 2 and the version 4. There's that kind of notch for your ankle and stiff in the heel. So I would say when you're feeling these and you look at these, the version 4 is a little bit less stiff in the heel than the version 2. The version 2 is a stiffer heeled boot, where the version 4 is a little bit less stiff in the heel. But in terms of their ankle support, I would say that's the same in both of them, and the feel in the toe box is the same. So that would be the differences, main differences in terms of version 2 and version 4 in that part of it. As far as the functional aspect, the laces are the same. You'll see, again, this boot's about 4 years old, and I didn't have any problems with these laces wearing or breaking. I know that I've seen other boots where they just don't last as long as you'd like them to for a laced up boot. These do last. You'll notice on both boots, there's a tag right here that says waterproof. And on the version 4, tag right here that says waterproof, okay? An important note to that, these are waterproof to about right here on the boot, both of them I would say. So if you were standing in water, you're not gonna feel the water leak through the boot. If you're riding in water or riding in rain, my feet didn't get wet. The caveat to that is this: if you're wearing rain gear and your rain gear comes up to the top of the boot, which mine did on a couple trips this year, that rain will go right inside the boot, and then you'll feel like your boot is not waterproof. So you do need to have a covering or something over the top of the boot if you're riding in just absolutely torrential rains. If you're riding in just a regular rain, these boots are going to be sufficient in terms of keeping your feet, dry. In terms of warmth of the boot, my feet have never really gotten cold in these boots. And if you know anything about me and my riding, I get cold pretty easily. And these boots really didn't, my feet don't get cold in them, I should say that. They do make another version of the Crow that is vented. It's kind of like a perforated boot. That's just not practical for where I ride up in North Dakota and kind of in the upper Midwest. The practicality of a vented boot just doesn't make sense. Now, if you were living in a warm weather state, that boot is amazing, and I know it's a very popular boot in their line. So if you're a person that gets hot feet, or you live in a warm weather environment, their vented Crow boot is probably, if you like the more traditional black boots, their vented Crow is going to be something that you really, really like. So those are kind of some styling things about the boots and some functional things about the boots. Again, this is the version 2 that I have about 20 to 25,000 miles on. There is a little bit more wear in the heel of the boot, but overall you can still see that the tread is there. And again, same thing for this one. There's probably a little bit more heel, but the tread is still pretty nice over that period of time. In terms of whether or not these boots are slippery, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews, and I would say this: I don't think that the boot is any more or less slippery than any other boot that has this type of kind of sole on the bottom. It's more of what I would consider to be a smooth sole. It doesn't have a rough surface. I have a rougher surface on the top of my footboards, and so for me, the smooth surface boot doesn't really bother me because I still feel fairly locked into my boot. Have I stepped in sand or kitty litter at a gas station or oil or something like that? I have, and again, I don't think that the boot is any more or less slippery than any other boot on the market, at least boots that I have worn. I found it to be, fair in terms of gription on that type of environment. I think your feet are going to slip if you put your feet down in sand or kitty litter at a gas station, oil or anything like that. I don't really think there's going to be any boot that's just going to absolutely grip you to the ground in that situation. Again, this is just my assessment of the boot. It's not a case of fact, or it's just my experience that I've had with these. In terms of weather conditions, I have ridden both of these boots in very cold weather. I've ridden both of these boots in very hot weather. And I would say that I've ridden the version 4 in much more rain than the version 2, only because last riding season, I bet I put, of the 10,000 miles, I bet I put 3,000 miles in rain in this boot, because it rained on nearly every trip I took last year. And so this boot did see quite a bit of rain and weather. Actually, in 2 trips, I would have to say that the version 2, I did get completely saturated to the point where I stopped at a gas station, poured water out of the boot. And the hotel that we stayed at that night, there is a liner in the inside of the boot, or like a sole in here, and I'll take this out and kind of show it to you. And so this comes in the inside of the boot. I took this out, I washed it in the sink, and then I dried it, or I put it on like a heater in the hotel room to dry. And then I put my boot upside down on the heater and let the air blow in there. And both my boots were fairly dry by the next day. So, but I would say that if you get them completely soaking wet, they are going to get pretty wet. You're gonna have to wring the water out of them. In terms of padding, there's a fair amount of padding in the top of both of these. You're gonna feel that padding is much more significant when you get the boot than when you wear it over a period of time. It does have a tendency to flatten out a little bit. I wouldn't say flatten out to the point where it makes them uncomfortable. It just does break in where it's, just like a athletic shoe would. It's a lot more puffy when you get it, and then it kind of breaks in and, molds to your foot. Again, I would say that the version 4 was a little bit more easy to break in. I think the boot is a little bit less stiff, and like I said, probably more refined, I would say, than the version 2, which I feel was a little bit more of a rugged feel when I put it on. And honestly, the version 2 wasn't super comfortable to walk in right away, but it broke in fairly quickly. So that was one thing that was really nice, is that in terms of walking and things like that, it broke in really, really quickly. Having boots that had armor ankles was a fairly new thing for me, so I think that was part of the reason why I felt like they were uncomfortable, just because the top part of the boot, if you have any type of armoring in the ankle of the boot, it's going to feel stiff when you're when you're riding or even when you're walking. So overall, my assessment is this: I think for the money that you pay for these boots, and I'm not going to quote any prices on these, I would encourage you to go to IndyRidge.com and check out the prices. You can order them from Indy Ridge. You can also order these from Amazon, but they do come directly from Indy Ridge. But my overall assessment of these boots is this. I think that these are definitely worth the money for what I would say has a premium look and a premium feel to them. I don't think that they command that crazy premium pricing that you see sometimes on motorcycle boots. I think they're a very fair price, and that is really, really nice for something that you want to have good protection, good functionality, and in my case, something that actually looks good. That's one of the things that I did like about these boots, both the version 2 and the version 4, is I think they're a style of boot that doesn't look like a traditional motorcycle boot off of the bike. And so that was one thing that I really did like. The insides, when they come out, they're not the super easiest to get back in, but they do go in fairly easily. And then you can get them adjusted to your feet once you need to. So not too bad as far as getting the insides in. So again, the Indy Ridge Crow boot, is it worth the money? I would say absolutely they're worth the money. I've put a ton of miles on these boots, and I wanted to make sure I didn't clean them or do anything to them before I did the review. So I wanted to make sure that you could see the wear and tear and see that they had actually been ridden. Also important, that's why I wanted to make sure that you could see the wear on the toe box of the boot, to see that these were actually boots that have been worn and ridden. So I hope you got some use and some education out of the assessment today. I'm not paid by Indy Ridge by any stretch of the imagination, and I do, anytime I've done reviews of anything, it's because I use them, I run them, and I would endorse them in terms of a product goes. Both of these boots are very good, and I will continue to use them. Stay tuned, because I am going to be using the Indy Ridge Comanche boots, which are a brown boot and a little bit different styling. And I'm going to use them for this riding season coming up. I have usually been wearing traditionally black boots, and I'm going to move towards wearing some brown ones for this season, just to kind of throw something different into the mix. So yeah, that's my review of the Indy Ridge version 2 and version 4. So thanks again, and that's about it. I hope you guys liked the review that I did. I tried to be as honest and forthcoming as I could. I really have worn these boots exclusively for about the last 4 seasons, going through every type of weather, every kind of environment, moto camping, everything you can imagine, stomping out fires, everything you can imagine I've done with these boots in terms of a motorcycle, off the motorcycle, at events, walking around. So I hope that you appreciate this, and it helps you make an informed decision when you're out there looking to buy new boots, or if you're in the market to buy new boots. I know at this time of the year for me, riding season's right around the corner, and this is when I'm looking at what I want to do, or if I want to upgrade or change any of my gears for the year, for the current season I have coming up. So hopefully, like I said, this video helps you. If it does, give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.